Yo, it is me, it is I, coming to you today on this beautiful Saturday in Chicago with this next session. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me from. Today I want to talk about something that is, yeah, we're gonna get into it today. We're gonna get into it today, so buckle up. Today we're going to talk about solitude, intentional, mindful solitude, why solitude is important for personal growth, for the growth of friendships, of family, um, intentional, mindful solitude for the purpose of self growth, intentional, mindful solitude so that we can make our lives better and not simply live in attachment and keeping people in our life who no longer serve us or give us what it is that we need to survive. So there's a big difference between solitude and loneliness, right? Solitude is the intentional and mindful practice of being alone. There should be a joy in being alone. I wrote here, solitude should be a better way to enjoy the company of others. I'll say that again. Solitude should be a better way to enjoy the company of others. Because you're taking time to be alone, because you're taking time to sit with oneself, to go into nature, to take a drive by oneself, to go shopping or take yourself out on a date by oneself, you are intentionally giving yourself a retreat. It's a vacation. Think about it like that. It's time for you to self reflect and turn inward to focus on oneself. And the practice of being alone, I wrote here, when you should be alone, should be clearly stated in your boundaries. So, because you have boundaries, because you have things that you need with yourself and with others, anything that opposes that allows you to immediately know that is not aligned with me and that is not for me. That makes sense? So, for instance, you have a boundary that says no physical touch, right? When someone continues to cross that boundary, you know to warn them and to maybe walk away from them. When someone is intentionally, continually crossing a boundary and doing something you do not want them to do, you always know you can choose the practice of isolating in solitude. What do you need? A nap? A coffee? A walk? A bike ride? All of these things can be solitude. Solitude does not have to mean going out into the wilderness and meditating on a high rock. I mean, you can. You certainly can go out into the wilderness and, you can do that, which is beautiful and to each their own. But in a very hyper society where we're constantly moving and we're constantly doing things and life is going on, solitude can look like taking 5 minutes out of your day, going into your office, into your bedroom, sitting with oneself, using the breath, and calming down. The practice of solitude is so fascinating because we have to learn to master the mind. What I mean by this is our brains usually don't like doing things that cause discipline or doing things that in the long run are going to be beneficial and good for us. So let's take solitude, the practice of solitude. We have to reshape and reframe in our mind why solitude is important. A lot of the times people run away from solitude, which then causes them to run away from the thing that they love. Take something like artistry, whether that be performing arts, creative, visual, movement-based, etc. A lot of the times you're practicing these things alone. This is why many people like to go to sleep at night with a TV on or a video playing, because it makes them feel less alone. It's soothing. It's nice to hear another person's voice. There's nothing wrong with that. But when we become attached to it, I need this thing to fall asleep. There's something deeper happening within us. Try going to sleep with nothing playing on the TV, just silence. This is why people run to work. This is why people run to hobbies. Unhealthily, toxically, they run to these things. They sprint to these things because anything to keep them away from their own mind is good for them. But in the long run, it's not. Right? So, all of this to say, right, if you can reframe it as this time is actually a good thing for these relationships because it's going to give it time to breathe, that helps ease that abandonment and trauma. Actually, I'm going to take today or tonight to be alone. I'm going to take today or tonight to sit with myself. Because if I can begin to master the brain and body and spirit, and I can begin to think about what it is that I want, what I want my relationships, friendships to look like, what I want my life and goals and values to look like, what are my priorities, let me just sit in solitude and just think about that for a bit. If I can do that, that's only going to make everything else in your life that much better. Because once you have these things aligned and you begin the process of thinking through them, that's going to help you treat people better. I know what my priorities are. I know what my goals and values are. Therefore, do you align with them? And if you don't, as I said before, bye-bye. Imagine the amount of growth that can happen if you tonight or today or whenever take some time and say, I'm going to sit alone for 30 minutes. Just 30. Or start even with even lower than that, right? I'm going to sit alone and think. Why do I like to control people? Are there things in my childhood I never got, and so I use, let's say, something like cleaning, physical cleaning, to control my space? Why do I get sad when they invite other people to hang out with us? Let me write these things down and think through them. And as we begin doing that, it's only going to make our friendships better. You don't want them to leave. You don't want them to abandon you. You don't want them to run away. You want them to want you. That's all you want, is to want to be wanted. You want to be needed by other people. You desire to be desired. They're not going to leave you, first of all, if they're right for you and they're in divine timing. But number two, if there's anything that you think you can control, it's truly yourself. If there's something you want to better about yourself in a healthy, sustainable, beautiful, and divine way, then do it. Work on it. Think about it. Ask your friends questions. When I say this thing or do this thing, does that make you feel X, Y, or Z? And because you took the time to sit with oneself and think, to make breakfast for yourself without listening to music, to shower without music. Music is divine. It's profound. It goes through the body. It makes us move, right? It's an incredible tool. But something can become toxic when you use it too much. Solitude and loneliness are not the same thing. And this is why a lot of people don't want to be alone, because they think they're feeling lonely. Solitude, the joy of being alone. Loneliness, the fear of being alone. And not only the fear of being alone, it's not wanting to be alone, but being alone anyway. Not even physically. Because you can be in a group of 10 of your best friends and still feel deeply alone. Deeply alone in your morals, ethical code, deeply alone in spirit, in divine connection. There's nothing wrong with being by oneself. As I said before, this is another wonderful framing device. Imagine yourself as different people. Imagine your brain, body, spirit as different people. Imagine your inner parent, you, and your inner child as different people. Break down who you are into these different segments, and that will only help you, right? So if you're feeling lonely, and I don't want to be alone, but I am alone, I feel disconnected and isolated from everything and everyone around me. I don't feel like anyone understands me or knows what I desire or want. And I just want someone, period. There are so many contributing factors to loneliness. A lot of it comes from our surface level and shallow capitalist, materialistic world. Because as I've said before, we take earthly material things and try to fill the void in our heart, and it won't fit. It won't work. And if it does fit, it doesn't fill the void up enough. It fills it up just a little bit. So you feel a little better, but not enough. What we need is deep quality connection with people. What we need is to attract real, authentic, genuine relations with people. What we need is to know people won't leave us. That's what we need. I'm continually working on this, right? If I am in a situation where I can help myself by seeking help from others, I have to do it. I'm feeling lonely, but I don't want to pick up the phone. But I don't want to FaceTime them. But I don't want to reach out for help, because I don't want to feel like a burden. Or maybe not even a burden. What happens when you call? Hey, how are you? I'm good. I just feeling really alone. Can I actually call you back later? This isn't a good time. This is why solitude and loneliness are two different things. Solitude, the joy, the true, raw joy and bliss of being alone and being able to deal with oneself, and the enjoyment of being with oneself. Treating yourself like another person. How would you talk to your friend? That's how you need to talk to yourself. We need more compassion for ourselves, more love for ourselves. I would love to do an episode or a session on that. This is something that was written. Intentional solitude is like retreating to a peaceful place amidst a chaotic world, right? It provides nourishment and rejuvenation for the brain, body, and spirit, just as, imagine, a tree draws sustenance from deep within the ground. Us embracing solitude is to gift thyself discovery, clarity, renewal, and to enable ourselves to navigate a world with a better, clearer, and refreshed mind, a revitalized body, and a reinvigorated spirit, right? That is solitude. Sometimes we lose track of what is solitude versus what is loneliness, because it won't always feel good. Because it won't always feel good to be alone. It won't always feel good to be in intentional solitude. But in those moments, those breakthroughs, that causes the breaking of the generational curse, which then leads through a breakthrough, which then leads us to that paradise within partnerships, within friendships, right? Those breakthroughs that we're making in that solitude, but that loneliness and that despair. This is from the National Institute of Health, which perfectly helps to describe loneliness. Loneliness is defined as a distressing feeling that accompanies the perception that one's social needs are not being met by the quantity or especially the quality of one's social relationships. Years ago in middle school, in high school, I've always been this, someone who's trying to be mindful and intentional, someone who's trying to be wise or trying to just gain wisdom and clarity from everything around me. And I felt very lonely in that. I felt that in middle school and high school, no one was being mindful. No one was asking questions. No one was interested. And there are even times now where I think I'm showing up, I'm being mindful, I care. Do they? And the answer is yes, they do care. But they might not be showing you love in the way you desire love to be shown. This is why we have to teach people how to love us. I like to be touched. I like quality time. Or I like gifts, and I like acts of kindness, acts of service. Or I like all of them. Or it depends on the day, right? Solitude can be a tool to help us grow and can be a tool to help others as well. I'm going to set a boundary and remove myself from this situation so that both of us can grow. I'm going to spend some time alone, do some thinking, do some reflecting, and in the midst of that, let's see what happens, right? Thank you for watching. Thank you for giving me your time, right? I hope this helped in some sort of way. Like, comment, do all of that. Share this to someone who needs to hear it. Take care, take care, take care.